Oh my God, yo. Good morning, Brad. What's
Good
happening,
morning,
dog?
brother Braz. Good morning,
Yeah,
Cuban. Good morning, Chef. Good morning, Smalls. Good morning, brothers.
that is
Good morning.
wild.
Good morning, everybody.
What up, y'all? What up? That was funny as hell.
That was super duper wild. It definitely was. That's why
O-
I had to make sure I cleared the air out before I said, hold on, you prep y'all, because it's gonna be a wild one right here. I know it is.
Okay, what the
It's
hell
okay.
did you
So
do?
right. So I was listening to what he said. He was talking about pre-colonial Africa and how and basically how colonialization forced us to take on a certain worldview that we didn't have pre-colonial, right? So I making fun of it. I said, so basically what you're saying is the transatlantic slave trade knocked some sense into us, right? So I know
Mm,
that's not what he means, but I'm summarizing it in a way it would be like, so to get you to force you to see that we weren't doing it before the transatlantic slave trade. So when you try to specify how unique it is, that we are, if we didn't get the uniqueness until after the transatlantic slave trade, well, I would have to credit it to something. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm simply saying that it couldn't have been innately in us if it took for us to start doing it. You get what I'm saying? And then it would be still like us particularly doing it, and not the traditional African continental African doing it, which is kind of what I would expect you to mean when you say we naturally do it. You know what I'm saying? I would see it before colonialism. That would be something that we did before we got disturbed. You get what I'm saying?
so,
And
what was the
that's
original question, though?
that's more of it. We were talking about we began to talk about if it's problematic or not for us to call ourselves unique, right? In the context of
You,
how
Joshua,
we
asked that question.
uh, yes.
You,
You
Josh,
want to
can you
go ahead
explain
and
that question? Yeah.
you might be on mute. I try to paraphrase just to keep it going.
Hello?
But we're talking about okay, there it is, there it is.
Is it
Did I go
problematic
on?
for African Americans to call ourselves unique?
Yeah, he was asking me that question. Calling ourselves unique, and yeah, I'm gonna let him explain it. That way I don't gotta mess it up.
I'm sorry, my brothers. My audio went out. Here, just move this back. I'm trying to get my son to school. Um, so you want me to rephrase that question again?
Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
Okay.
problematic for African Americans to call ourselves unique?
No. Is it so? Do you see problem? Do you see complications in us recognizing that we have a unique story, that we have a unique experience that informs how we see the world and how we see um, our conversations for humanity? Is there complications in recognizing our uniqueness?
Where'd that question come from?
Okay.
Huh? That just kind of that's a man logic morning conversation how we kind of
No, no,
be
I'm
building
saying
in the
like I'm
morning.
saying. I mean, I'm just saying like what was the
Yeah, some kind of way we got from Socrates to that, right? So walk that down for Brad, 'cause that's what he missed.
and what did Chef say? Is Chef in here?
Chef been in here enjoying the conversation.
Okay.
Honestly, I like these too. Like man, when me and Johnson get in here rolling, bro, that'd be like, yeah, I'd be enjoying that. I ain't gonna lie. That shit is up.
Sorry about that, brothers. I'm doing like 14 at the same time.
Take your
Yeah, no,
Nah,
time.
you good, bro.
we were talking about Cornell West. We was talking about um, the question just kind of arrived out of numerous different points that me and Logic was trying to examine and really break down, looking at the analysis of recognizing human struggle versus recognizing city. And we were just trying to make sense of how Cornell West and a lot of his writings and his philosophies tend to bridge kind of in a hybrid way what me and logic, have different perspectives on. And so somehow in the conversation, we arrived at that question as what's wrong with just recognizing and affirming that we have a unique perspective on human struggle that makes us, that tends to provide or amplify kind of like a moral prophetic voice in Black folks' perspective. Like, well, and that, so that's the question that I propose to like, what's wrong with affirming that? What's wrong with it, with seeing that?
Right. And I think I'm trying to like directly address this question. But one thing I noticed myself doing for sure is I'll try to head you off where I think you're going. So I'm trying to just walk with you and let you kind of like lead the conversation, because when I'm hearing it, right, like I would suggest that we focus on this where our experience fits into world history. I think that that's a more important way to be looking at it, more beneficial way to be looking at it, rather than looking at how unique it is personally. So that may be kind of fueling my answer lots.
Mhm. I can see that. I can see that. I can't take, I wouldn't, again, I said this earlier, I'm not talking from the perspective that somehow Black folks in America are some chosen people. Like, I don't subscribe to anything in that type of discourse that will elevate some type of uh, specificity or specialization around who we are. However, I'm examining where does the line end and where does it begin when we're talking about a collective esteem of how we view our heritage and how we view the people in our experience and how we view the resistance struggle, or what Cornell West would call the Black prophetic tradition struggle amongst our people. Like at a certain point, we have to we have to recognize, like, yes, our struggle in humanity is part of a broader struggle of humans fighting against oppressive conditions, um, attempting to change our material conditions so that way we can live equitable and comfortable lives. But at the same token, where do we also acknowledge that there's a level of pride and a level of dignity and love and appreciation for these people amongst my heritage who have spoken to those issues, who have contributed to those issues, who who thought deeply and worked um, um, continuously to the progressive cause of our people. Like, where do we draw that line, if there's a line to be drawn? And again, like I said a few minutes ago, I love Black folk. I love our history. I love our resistance. I love what we've done. I love who we are. I love you. Get yourself about these things. I love the diasporic reality and how we share this commonality against the struggle against oppressive regimes throughout the last 230 years. There's something remarkable about who we are, what we've done, what we've accomplished, and what we're still trying to contend with, that just makes a perspective on the world. Does that mean we're some type of chosen people? No, I'm not making that argument. I just mean that there's something to that we have to always acknowledge.
I'm sorry, we're over here making a little noise, but I'm hearing what you're saying. And so the reason why, not because that I feel like we should focus on where it is in world history, because I think that is what I think that's what allows us to like describe it as a struggle. You get what I'm saying? That we only describe it as a struggle, I believe, because other people actually agree that there are things that need to be changed, that could be better, right? Like, because if not, then it would just be this is the natural order of things, and we belong where we're at. You get what I'm saying? Like we're here because this is how nature intended it to play out. Like the squirrel live in the tree because that's what nature said. You get what I'm saying? Like without that, there is no struggle. There's no struggle to be had or get involved in because nobody else other than us sees our predicament as a plight. You get what I'm saying? Like the fact that there's something to appeal to in other people is what makes it a struggle for everybody.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying it's unique, then I'm almost saying that other people aren't struggling with it. You know what I'm saying? Like other ethnic groups aren't concerned about morality and all those other type of things. So that's why I'm leery of the framing and how necessary it is to use these particular words and how is that dressing up what I'm actually saying, or does it even capture what I actually say, or am I possibly using some poetry, right, to kind of emphasize a particular point that I'm trying to make? You get what I'm saying there?
I think so. I think I'm
So
following
what
you.
I mean by maybe the poetry statement was a bit of a throw off, but like am I painting the picture in a particular way, right? Like not that you're driving a narrative, but the word that you use might lean in a particular direction over another. You follow me?
Yeah. Is
I'm gonna
this a
let you know.
build?
I do
Is
the
this a
best with my
build, or y'all
words. I
going
don't
back
know
and
how to
forth?
talk that well. Say that again,
Is,
Brad.
is this a build, or y'all going back and forth?
We always build in the morning, so that
All right.
examines a
So,
little different perspective.
so
Yeah.
here's the danger. So, Logic, are you saying we shouldn't have a unique story?
No, I absolutely understand that we have a unique story, and I'm more so saying, even though our story is unique and our relationship to America is unique, I'm saying that we get more out of it. We get a better explanation of what it is we're actually dealing with when we look at it as far as where it falls in world history. Like, not that there isn't something unique about our story. No, that's not what I'm catching him saying. He's more going off into the. I mean, at least before we were more on the is there something unique about us, right? Not that if our story was unique. So, but maybe if that's what we were talking about before, I might have misheard something. But yes, our story is absolutely unique. Absolutely.
No, I know our story is unique, but y'all use the word. Is it problematic to say we have a unique story? Where would the problem be?
Well, that's where I thought he was saying, are we unique, right? I would say, are we unique being problematic, but our story being unique, no, I wouldn't have argued that. That's why I feel like I might have misheard something you said.
Right. So where
Yeah, Brad.
does problematic come in?
I would
No,
I
if
would say it'd be problematic to call us as a people unique. I would say that was problematic. But if that's not what
Why?
he's saying, then I'm not saying
Why
because
would it be?
if we're unique, what's everybody else?
Not us.
I mean, so we're unique as far as like we're
Explain
just
that
different than
better. Hold on,
everybody.
hold
Like,
on. Explain that. Explain that better. That it
well,
would.
what
That
I'm
you think it
saying,
would be problematic for us to call ourselves unique. So I can understand what you're saying.
right? Well, it's all about context, right? Of course, we have a unique history. Of course, we got a unique culture, so on and so forth. Right? But I'm saying
Hmm.
unique as far as like outside of the human experience, unique, right? Like as if our morality is rooted in something nobody else has, or our
You talking about
like those like
You talking about
yeah, like
African
that
culture?
type of unique, yeah, like
Okay.
that type of unique. That's what I thought he was talking. So I mean, since he's not talking about that, I mean, I'm not trying to hammer it home, but when I hear the word unique, my mind goes more there. It doesn't go into the explanation about our story of being unique. So, but I believe what was said before was that we are unique, and that's how I internalized it, right? That's where my mind went. It didn't go into our relationship with America being unique. That's not what I was thinking.
But aren't we unique though?
Yeah, we're unique, sure.
So why? So, okay, I'm missing the connection of where it would be problematic for us to
Well,
not.
how are you what are you thinking when you say unique? So we can make sure we're on the same page and we're not talking no past.
The
When you
African
say we're
American
unique,
story.
you're
No
talking
other, no other. Since we always talking about slavery, I'll stay right there for a second. No other people were were done the way that we were done. That's not. No other people were brought across an ocean. Uh, had their name took, their religion took, their lineage took, and then not just did it to the people they brought across the ocean, they then did it to all of all of the generations after. Like I don't think that's happened to nobody else. I could be wrong, but
right. Well,
like a racial,
and
like some kind of racial
I
class
believe
system.
I believe you're right. I don't think it's like we're fighting, but I'm saying like I would say that that's colonialism.
but it's
I
not.
don't
It's a
know.
different
That's not
form.
colonialism.
Yeah, that's
What
not.
is that? What is that if it's not colonialism?
I don't
So
know.
here's, here's how I make a distinction with colonization, because you can look at it in the framework of kind of like a colonized definition, as long as you have a wide spectrum of what outside nation state coming to occupy and control another. So you can look at the African in America and in the Americas as a colonized experience. But on another end, there's a uniqueness about the African in his particular situation where we were prisoners of war. This is what Howard French calls the idea of the prison industrial labor system. That we were we were captives of a war and subjected to a dehumanized position for the purpose of being the perfect laboring force. And so when you look at that form of how slavery took form in order to justify the development of an economic empire, we we were enslaved to become non-human, to become a chattel property that's uniquely different than any other form of slavery that existed before this war. That most wars, whether you're talking about the Arabics invading over into Central and Western Africa, where you're talking about the Nordics over in parts of Europe, most wars is about assimilating peoplehood, destroying a certain peoplehood, and assimilating them for empire and nation building, making them a part of the bigger congregate of that nation state. That wasn't our subjective experience. We was not supposed to be a part of this nation state. We were supposed to just be the laboring force for these cash crop manufactured companies that was producing tobacco, indigo, sugar, and eventually keeping cotton. And so that level of subjectivity, that level of dehumanized positioning, created a unique reality for us to reconstitute who we are and how we view ourselves. So in that sense, and I hate to use the proverbial way that you put this, that form of slavery knocked some sense into us. And I ain't gonna say like we didn't have sense before, but it knocked some sense into us in a different way of how we viewed ourselves. And it made the African within the Americans. It made us, and that's the argument that I could make. Somebody may, say like, dude, you got this all backwards. And probably so. That's the
No,
argument that I around that.
no. I mean, we're unique within. If you continue the story, we built the democracy while they kept it from us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like we built it. Like when you force migrate people that you consider livestock to your own country to then enslave them, and then they're helping you build your democracy. That's how weird it is. You
Mm-hmm.
have us here as people, even though you're treating us as livestock, you know that we're people. We know that we're people. So we understand somewhat of what's going on. So now we're building the democracy that we're building your country, all your textiles, your major imports and exports, your economy at the time. We are your economy at the time. And then you're telling us to help you build a nation while also telling us we can't be a part of it. And then after you give us that freedom, you then re-enslave us
Yep.
multiple times. I mean, I'm just thinking about Reconstruction, but then even after the 60s, you give us civil rights, but you don't give us economic rights. And then after you think you give us economic rights, then you mass incarcerate us to do the same thing all over again. It's like the classic oppression never leaves. It just reshapes itself into something
Right.
else.
That's right.
So we would have our story, one, is unique. I don't think it's dangerous to say our story is unique. I don't think it's problematic to say our story is unique. Um, I think that we have to have we have to make sure that we keep it unique because we're the only permanent minority. Permanent. Like they've turned for all the senses. If you're gonna put white versus black, then we'll always be a minority. We're the opposite of whatever is supposed to be over here. So just in our structure, we're different than everybody else. If we don't say that if we do not in some way make sure that the world knows that we're unique, that we don't force our uniqueness, then we'd be doing ourselves a disservice. So we are unique people, not unique in just what happened to us, just unique in just existing as African Americans in the United States.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's a very strong white white wing conservative strategy to minimize the uniqueness of the black experience.
Yeah.
You know, if we continue down that line of thinking and agree with what you're saying, Brass, we run the risk of corroborating what they tend to do by trying to minimize what slavery is, calling it involuntary servitude. You know, they try to minimize our uniqueness around what we've experienced under these different social classes that they remorph themselves. And to what you just elevated as well too, they try to minimize how we've created democratic opportunities for other people to come here and experience a different system than what they came from. Like, you know, a lot of white immigrants that were here in the late 1700s and the early 1800s got their suffrage off of the permanent um, casting system of the Negro of that time. You know, like legislators did not want to offer the Negro, despite the fact that we helped them fight off the crown. They didn't want to allow us the liberty, you know, to voting and political enfranchisement. So, in order to make sure that the populace agreed with these architectural designs and engineering, they gave the Irish and gave the Nordic and the Germans the opportunity to vote at the expense of the Negro being permanently cast away from the vote. And that was, in a sense, universal. There were small practices where you got black folks in the 1790s and the 1800s being able to find ways to cast their participation in the political. But it's through that disenfranchisement that other people got to be enfranchised within the body politic of America. And this is not my piece. This is Eric Bell. He wrote this in the Silent Covenant. That like there's a commitment that America has that as long as we can disenfranchise the Negro and their descendants, other people will be able to experience the fruit of equality, democracy, and capitalism. And so if we don't talk about that unique history and that unique experience and that social construction of who we are, then we run the risk of minimizing how we've contributed to the development of this empire, voluntarily and involuntarily.
So Logic, you agree or you disagree? Or I'm not talking about something you're not saying.
I honestly, I call bits and pieces of y'all last conversation. I was over here trying to figure out what I'm gonna do for the rest of this job. So I might need a quick summary.
No, I think we definitely have to be unique, and we have to recognize you're unique, and we can't remove it, even if some people abuse it, right? Even if some people may use it in a disgusting way, or use it in a way that doesn't serve us. Even if some people fall into victimhood, you have to do it because we're still here. Like if we don't say our story is unique, then one of the sharpest tools we got, we just hand to white people. We just hand to America. I won't even say white people. I will say we just hand it to America. That you tried to make us a permanent caste system. You tried to you told us to build your democracy, but then also saying that we're not a part of that democracy. So if we hand that to them, then all we've done is just become like, because you got to remember, like, this whole thing about being unique is they were telling us they've been trying to tell us this entire. Remember, we was livestock. Hold on, all right, real quick. A cow on a farm, a pig on a farm, a machine, a sewing machine, never gets its civil rights. Never a sewing machine in your house never becomes the head of household. They treated us as livestock, and we went from livestock. Huh? Yeah, go ahead.
So yes, they treated us as
I can't really
livestock.
hear you. Go ahead. That was
my background or somebody else?
No, somebody else had a background. I couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Right. So the part about that I'm saying that is just as important to me is that we it's not like there aren't other nations out there who don't have people living in those nations who don't have rights, who are not protected by the law and the government. Like that would not be unique in that way.
That they were brought
Right?
from another place to live there?
You right. You can give me some more details to make it unique, but I'm saying whole time what you're actually talking about is our citizens who have no rights. Or people who living in a country who aren't citizens. That's not
but they were human. Hold on. But those people are human. We were livestock.
Not everywhere.
During chattel slavery?
I'm saying that you can still find
other places, bro.
Yeah, you can still find slavery in modern Africa right now.
Where'd they come from?
I'm not sure we see it.
The slaves.
You said where did they come from?
The slaves in Africa. Where did they come from?
I mean, they're more likely near neighboring tribes.
You could talk about all type of shit. Let me stay quiet. This sounds like another episode of Blame the System. Let me stay quiet.
Ready be doing this.
No, he
want shooting, bro. He just come in the room.
Yeah, he want to get Logic or somebody cuss him out or something. Anybody doing that today?
Yeah, that's more of what I'm trying to emphasize, right? So yeah, we can say there are particulars in our story that would be unique to us, but it's not unique to have oppression. That's not unique.
No nation no nation, if you could say they did this, if they did this to us and then they did this to them, then wait, so you're saying our story isn't unique?
I'm saying it's not unique in that way. No.
So
No.
you think the combination of what they did to us is similar to what they did to someone else? Or what? No, no, not
As
what
far
they
as
did to someone
traveling
else.
across
You
the
think what
water,
happened?
no.
No, no. You think what? No, no. You think what happened to us here? That doesn't. What you saying or what Fetty's saying? I don't know what either one of y'all are saying. There's a reason why I didn't just say they brought us as my. They didn't just bring us here and do. I gave you somewhat the full story, and I can go back and give you the entire story. Our story
No, but I'm
of
saying you're just
African American
describing, you're
story
giving
is
me the
unique to other
description
people.
of the oppression. But the
No,
oppression itself is not unique.
yeah, but the reason why the description of the oppression, that's the uniqueness of it. Listen, if you don't think that what happened to us is unique, then then any immigrant can say to you, why are they so, what makes them any different? We're here too.
What makes you any different?
Black
What
people,
makes
an
African Americans any different?
A Jew, Irish, anybody in the United States of America, then they would just say, what the hell are y'all crying about? Y'all the same as us. If you don't say it's unique, African Americans are most certainly unique. What?
Now,
I don't understand
how
what
can I
happened.
not be saying both of the things at the same time?
I don't know what, I
How can
don't
I
even know what
not
that
how can
means.
I not be saying, okay, right? How can I not be acknowledging that our relationship with America is unique, but our predicament in the human story, we're not the first person to be enslaved. We're not the first people to be oppressed. How can I mean, can I say both things at the same time?
Name a nation. Okay, so name a nation that name a nation that did to a people. They mass migrated them across an ocean. They completely erased their entire culture. Then they turned it into a hereditary generational race-based slavery. Then they gave them their freedom and then re-enslaved them again, kept them as a permanent minority status inside of the nation that they have, while also telling them that they helped build the democracy that they can't have.
How familiar
I
are
want you
you
to
with the
find out
Muslim
what you
slave
said.
trade? Are you
So they
familiar with the
did. So
Zane's Rebellion?
no. So you're saying I can look it up. So you're saying that all happened to
Let's
those
start there.
people. Okay.
I mean, let's start there.
No, I'm asking you. I'm not gonna do the research. I'm asking. I'm saying did
I
that.
mean, of course, we might be able to find details, but we're still like, you're gonna look this up, and we're gonna be making more similarities than we are gonna be differences. Watch.
That happened to the what? Spell it. The Zan's Rebellion.
Zanj, Zanj.
The revolt of the Zinj in Iraq.
Zinj. So how you spell it though, Chef?
Zanj.
Y'all went to the 7th century. Okay.
I mean, I said it fits in human history. It wouldn't.
No. I'm
It's
just
a
looking. I'm just looking. I'm not. I'm just looked at the date. I just saw it. There was no total cultural erasure. There was no hereditary race-based slavery. There was no Jim Crow. There was no permanent minority status inside the nation.
let's look at how it was similar. You must have looked up what the differences are.
No, I just took no, but no, I didn't look up the difference. I just said I put in the uniqueness of our oppression in this
Right. You're
nation.
asking them for the differences.
No. I put in what I told you: total erasure of our culture, hereditary race-based slavery, re-enslavement after freedom, permanent minority status. I'm putting in
He
the
said, "What was your
conversation.
prompt, though, Lodge? Brass."
Oh, I said did these things happen to the Zanj also? And it says
Right.
no.
Right.
So
So you're
you're
asking for the
asking.
differences. Right.
Yeah, you're
So
asking
what
for
are
the
the same?
differences.
Right. But hold on, listen. But if the question is how we're unique, wouldn't I ask what the differences were?
Right, but
If
I'm
what
saying
happened,
I'm saying that all of that still falls under
why
the
would I look
that
for
under the umbrella
similarities?
of oppression. Well,
No, it
you would
don't
look
fit
for
in the umbrella
similar.
of impression.
You would look for the similarities because now you would have to contend with, oh, so humans do got a history of just being fucked up,
That ain't
it may
just
not
being fucked
necessarily.
up, Roger. You got to be. There's a reason why you. Do you know that that's the whole reason for the reparations argument? You have to be specific. You have to be
Okay,
specific. No. Listen, hold on.
I'm
Wait.
trying to
Listen
be
to me.
specific and.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to be specific. So I've already acknowledged that. Yeah, you might could find a detail that's different. You know what I'm saying? Where they marched them 100 feet and we got put on a boat. Like you might could find that. I'm not saying that you can't find that, but I'm saying as far as another class of people coming in, instituting their regime, slanting all the politics in their direction, doing all of that. That's not unusual.
Well, I don't know exactly what you're doing. I'm just gonna say to you, I don't know exactly what you're trying to, because then I would say a better argument would be to look for what makes the Zan slave trade specific. I don't know why you want our slave. I'm trying to figure this out. Now I think I'm fucking up the conversation. But are I don't know why you want to turn the African American transatlantic slave trade. I don't know why you want to turn the slavery that they put on us into just what happened to everybody. Now, I guess that's where I would be confused. I don't know why. I don't understand
Well,
what's your
Well,
reasoning for that.
because outside of the reparations conversation, like it would just be another instance in which humans made some decisions that we would look at today as morally not the best. So I'm saying that even in African societies, and you get when those groups took over the other groups, you always gonna see cultural assimilation. You're always gonna see one dominant culture, and the other people who just got conquered, they gotta assimilate. Now, if you can call that a bit more friendly to their culture in the standpoint of they get to keep some of their old traditions, maybe, or blah 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 the whole time in that new society. If they don't adhere to the dominant culture, it could affect them. I mean, it can affect them socially, how much money they making and all, like, so they may not be infringed upon in the exact same way, but the similarities are still there.
Eh,
Like
eh,
it would still pose a cultural challenge for those people who've been conquered, right? They still got to deal with the politics of the dominant group and how in the corruption that's caused by all of that. All of that's still in the game.
I, I,
So what I'm saying, to not necessarily focus on how the specifics of how it was unique. I'm saying that you get a better picture of what's actually going on when you see how it lines up with corresponding events in world history.
yeah, the reason why I would allow logic to do it is for the simple fact it does everything that he's saying, plus is adding another is adding something else to it. For me, Brass, what it's doing is letting you know that being enslaved is not an inherent plight of just black people. You dig what I'm saying? Meaning, it's not something that just visited upon us because of, that we're uniquely more predisposed to being enslaved. No, every people went through it. It's nothing inherent in you that made you a better slave. You dig what I'm saying? That, all people, I mean, well, a lot of different groups of people around the world went through the same thing. You dig what I'm saying? When another dominant group could exploit them for their physical labor. You dig what I'm saying? It happened. You know what I mean? And what happened to us in the 14th century, you dig what I'm saying, was just something that was happening in the world. You know what I mean? And we're not predisposed to be slaves the way that it was taught to us. Like, and then I think is a lot of people, our people, that pedal off of that. You dig what I'm saying? Like, makes us a unique victim of slavery. No, we have to overcome that shit the same way all other groups overcame it. You dig what I'm saying? Not to say that our shit is not unique, because America and the West created a unique circumstance with their political system that, each system was unique, that the enslaved people or or the descendants of those enslaved people had to navigate through some bullshit to get to equality in that society, if they ever got to it in the first place. That's why I say the West. Yeah, that's why I say the West, was unique, because they created a pipeline and an avenue that those things are actually attainable for that group. You dig what I'm saying? So
that minority class.
yeah, like
that's exactly where I'm trying to emphasize.
We don't even know. Hold on, let me get this piece out, Mujahid.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We don't even know the intricacies of Chinese society to even know how their unique caste system work on certain groups of people. We never delved into that. Like, we talk like we know how underclass people, right, and other societies have a unique history. We never even flush that out. We only look at shit through our lens and think that we're speaking for the rest of humanity. I think we do ourselves and the world a disservice when we do that, but we still have to acknowledge our particular situation here in America. So I end there.
Y'all are making some points.
I don't like where y'all going.
This thing, I know. This thing is
I don't like
difficult
where y'all
to
going
debate.
with this one.
Nah, this is a powerful conversation right here.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Go
okay.
ahead, Josh.
It's difficult to debate, and a lot of scholars and a lot of people have kind of wrestled with this over the last, I would say, 20, 25, 30 years, probably even longer. But I think when me and Brass is holding the position that we're holding, we're dancing between, is there something unique about the African under the transatlantic slave war and our survival in it, versus
yes, it
the
is.
examination of versus the examination if there's something unique about the system of enslavement that we experience and how we responded to it. And there's a tangibility between the two. But what Brass and I is trying to unpack and unravel is that in the recorded history of human beings, and this is my limited experience studying history, again, it's a practice for me, listening to Howard French, listening to Gerald Horne, listening to Henry Clark, listening to numerous people, historians before me who I've tried to glean from, we don't have too many incidents where slavery have subjected a group of people from their human qualification to a non-human existence. The Chan's War, the Zan's War, and the repositioning of the Kurds in Iraq. The Kurds still under that system was recognized as human beings. And the servitude disposition that they were subjected to was in service to be a part of the bigger nation state of that Ottoman Empire that they were trying to absorb them in. Most slave systems that we have on recorded record history, and again, don't quote me entirely on this, I could be wrong, could be one incident somewhere, they still recognize the subjectivity of that person that they enslaved or imprisoned as a human person, that they forced them to learn a new language, forced them to work in a certain position, and then gave them opportunities to migrate up within that new system that they were being acculturated into. That humanity was still recognized. You can't say that about the American experience. You can't say that about the Brazilian experience, Portuguese there. You can't say that about the Spaniards in Central America. You can't say that. What they did to the African in that unique developmental experience was subject them to a non-human status, and it was justified first by the construction of Christian, Catholic Christian, the Papal Bull, and some of those other pieces, and then reanimated and justified through this new constructive idea called race. And the re-examining of the taxonomy of how they subscribe to this idea of race, the Negroid, the African, was like literally 2 cells away from being an ape, according to their perspective. They wasn't considered human. And when you justify a slave system based off this new social science that created this restructuring of how they viewed human beings and the quality of being human beings, and these group of people that they felt was perfect for menial labor or slave conditioning was not a part of that human quality, according to them. It's a different justification and reformation how we understand slavery. We can't go back in history and see slavery taking on those type of characteristics, subjecting human beings to that level of material condition. If you find an incident like that, where you can see that same quality and similarities, then I stand corrected. But until we can line those pieces up, you can't compare an apple to a pineapple. Yes, they're both fruits, but they're uniquely different fruits. And I'll land there. Just because
I
I have
think
apples.
slavery. I think slavery is, no matter who participates in it and what people fall under it. I think slavery in itself is the dehumanizing uh uh factor in the situation, right? So like I said, if we look at it, right, I don't think that the slave in any society is the valued, their humanity is not put on the same level as the dominant society. So it's dehumanizing no matter what group it is. Under any system, the slave is the lowest. You dig what I'm saying? So that whole being recognized as human piece, I don't agree with that, Mujasi. I think that all slavery is dehumanizing. You dig what I'm saying, to that matter. And
Right.
and to make it even more blunt, just because we understand the slavery that we went through more than we understand other forms of slavery around the world, does not mean that those forms of slavery is not dehumanizing. And I am right there.
Yeah, because that's that's kind of my analysis on what you said too. Like you kind of a bit trying to, not trying to, but that's kind of like sanitizing slavery to some degree, right? Like as if that those people who are slaves got the same rights and privileges of the people who enslaved them. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're over there isolated, right? Away from all the media, in the backwoods, doing whatever they want to the slaves. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, they got there's no regulations on it, and they're still practicing slavery. So ain't no telling what they're really doing. You know what I'm saying? Try to put some sort of a more aptitude on there, well then, why they don't got enough morals to just not do it? You get what I'm saying? Like it's kind of adding a layer of possibility there that may not necessarily be the case.
I don't
Okay, a
know what y'all.
pineapple is an
Yeah,
apple.
I
A
don't know what
pineapple is an
y'all trying
apple.
to do, bro. Yeah, I don't know why y'all trying to make. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, y'all. I
I don't
mean,
get. I
to
don't.
attempt
This
to
don't
try
serve
to
us. What
describe
y'all doing
that slavery.
don't
Go
serve
ahead, go
us
ahead.
at all. What y'all doing don't serve us at all. It has no. I don't give. I'm gonna say
We
what
trying to get to the
I'm.
meat and potato. We ain't trying to
No, no,
serve
no, 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 no,
nothing.
no, no. You trying to talk about Chinese, so you trying to get to the chicken and the broccoli. I'm talking about some real shit. So you saying last
Said
week
chicken.
you said a statement that made complete sense to me. Why should I care about when we talking about Charlie Kirk? Why should I care about a white man shooting another? Well, I don't know if you said it. I just know when they free framed it back to me, I completely understood their stance when they said, I think Malcolm X said the same shit. I'm gonna think about them about as much. I think it was when JFK got assassinated. He said, I'm gonna think about how do you feel about JFK being assassinated? I'm gonna feel the same way they feel when a young black boy is killed in Detroit. Nothing. And the same Charlie Kirk, when a white man shoots another white man on a from with a sniper, some guy talking shit, and he shot him for talking shit. I'm gonna feel the same way they feel when King Von died, or anything like that. But now you trying to somehow justify your position by wanting me to figure out the fucking Chinese caste system. Now we talking. Mujasi said it perfectly. Y'all can't turn pineapples into apples just because you want to. The perfect storm that happened to us, the combination of slavery that happened to us is unique. Now, these Zanj people you talking about, I'm pretty sure they could paint theirs as unique, and I hope they do. But ours is most certainly unique. And y'all saying that it's not unique doesn't serve us in any other way other than to prove a point. It's such
I
an
didn't say it
easy
was
argument.
unique. I didn't say it wasn't unique.
No, logic did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you
I
did,
said,
bro.
I said,
You said it's
I
the same
said,
as any other. It's just oppression. That's what you said.
okay, yeah, that's what I'm about to boil it back down to. Yes, it in that instance, yes, right.
So
So
it
like
ain't
you would
unique.
describe.
It
Okay,
is
well, yeah,
unique.
I'm saying in
It
that
is
particular breath,
You
oppression.
ain't
and that
saying the
would,
same thing Chef saying. You're not saying the same thing. Chef, you ain't the same
I
thing.
think
You
we
ain't
are.
saying the same thing Logic saying. So go ahead,
Go
Logic.
ahead, finish
I think
explaining
we is
yourself.
saying the same thing.
You trying to save Logic right now, and it ain't
Nah,
working.
we is. I believe we are. I believe we is saying the same thing.
Our
But
oppression is not
Chef
unique.
know at this point. If I could argue with that, then I definitely would. But we in the same car right now.
No, but our oppression ain't unique. I'm gonna keep saying it.
It
You keep
is.
saying it is. It ain't. I mean,
Listen,
it is. No,
each
no. I'm saying no, no,
society,
no, no, no,
each
no. Now I'm saying some
each
crazy shit. It
society
is
creates
unique.
its own.
Right, right.
Listen,
Ours,
e-
it is unique. No, I want to
yes,
get that on the
Right.
record. Ours is
But the
unique.
fact that
Logic is
oppression
saying it
happens
isn't.
is not unique.
No, but that ain't what I'm talking about. See what I'm saying? You trying to say a person oppressing another person because that's not unique. I'm saying
So
what happened to
this,
us is wait. I'm saying that what
go ahead.
happened to us, the oppression. Yes, we were oppressed. Like we were oppressed, and other people oppressed other people. Cool. But what happened to us, the combination and perfect storm of what they did to us and are still doing to us is unique and it has to be recognized and we have to keep it as our story. It's not problematic.
so let me ask you this, because what I'm doing is I'm attempting an overview, right, to look at slavery and oppression from a bird's eye view, right? Because if we're all human, then humans are doing similar things. You just probably can't see it down on the ground, right? So if you in the muck, you can see that human beings, for the most part, is all doing the same thing. But on the ground, you think your shit is just unique and stands apart from every, and then when you fly up in the sky and you look down and you say, oh, that's just human beings fucking over each other. This motherfucker think that he's going through something completely unique and nobody else is going through this. You dig what I'm saying? So for me, right, when I look at slavery and oppression, right, I see people forced out of their villages or away from their tribe, right, or whole tribes forced away, moved, right, across land to go somewhere else to work for another group of people, subjugated in slavery. Now I can show this over in history for multiple different groups of people, right, being forced, migrated to another place, and that group have to work for another group. I can show this. Then we can show their descendants, right? As the political or economic system changed, now their descendants who used to be forced laborers have a lower rung in society than the dominant class. You dig what I'm saying? Once that form of slavery, that visceral form of slavery, where you're working the field, has dissipated because the economic and the political system changed. Who those people was in that previous system, it allows them to be subjugated and oppressed in the new system. The same thing that happened to us, similar thing. Not same thing. I'm gonna stop saying same thing. I'm saying a similar thing happened to us when slavery was the mode of energy, right? We was just slaves. And then when that system got done away with, now we are underclass worker group. You dig what I'm saying? And vice versa, and don't have all of the same rights and shit as everybody else. I think we can show that how human beings have been doing this to those groups that they enslaved over and over. And I think it's unique because Western society in America is unique and it had its own unique circumstances and everything else. But I think from a bird's eye view, it's all the same, or slavery and oppression. So
in the last sentence is where you just fucked up your whole argument. I don't understand.
I might be. Listen,
I hear your argument. Chef, I hear your argument. Of course, you already know there's elements of disagreement, and I welcome that because this is good. It woke me up this morning. I started my day off real good. It's where we're probably going to draw the line at is that any system that you will attempt to bring up, where we look at cultural and structural infrastructures of how a person is subjected to servitude, menial labor, or slave status in that society, compared to the American, Portuguese, and Spaniard systems that we've seen in the last 200 to 300 years, you're always going to see that in those societies, the definition of a slave was, for instance, a Kosa in South Africa when the Zulus was taking over, stuff like that. It says the Kosa. And in other places, it had been a Kurd. It was the Phoenicians, and in other places, a slave was, in England, the slave was the Irish. Okay. They recognized that the definition in those places, the slave and the person that they were subjecting to what you would say is an inhumane condition, was a person of a certain different group of culture that they controlled, owned, and occupied. In this political economy over the last 300 years, in the age of what we call modernity, the slave became equivocal to a cow, a pig, a chicken. There was no human association to the slave for a brief extent of time in this system. Your slave status was perfect formulation to a non-human status. They didn't recognize you as being having some culture or some human pieces. And I think that's the piece where we may have some elements of difference. And so from a bird's eye point of view, that you elevated, I like the metaphor. A pineapple plant and an apple tree looks exactly the same. When you flying from a bird's eye point of view, it's only until you land where you see, goddamn, that's a pineapple plant and that's an apple tree. It's only from that perspective where you start to understand there's a unique difference between those particular vegetations and how they produce them. And I'll land there.
Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all because I don't really know necessarily. I just think y'all incorrect, but but I don't know. Every time I say your logic's incorrect, he changes his argument to something else. So then now I don't know what if he right now I don't know if he's saying the same thing he was saying before, because I know when we was talking it was our oppression was the same as everybody else's. Now you're saying he didn't say that, he's not saying our oppression is the same, but that's what I got. That's why I said you and Chef are the
Yeah,
same.
so what I'm saying, yeah. So what I mean by it is, yes, you can find details, right? The detail is they used our babies as alligator bait. That's a detail, right? But I'm saying all of that wild behavior gonna fall under an umbrella of oppression. And I'm saying the oppression is not unique to modern societies, right? You might find the specific detail, as in the baby being fed to the alligator, as being a specific detail or a mark in the brand of how this particular oppression, happens. But it's still oppression. It's still the dominant group just asserting their dominance and acting a fool at the end of the day.
Yeah,
That's where I'm saying.
But you're talking about events and things that happen within the oppression. I'm talking about the structural, the structure and the system of the oppression.
Right. And that structure and system is definitely what I'm saying is not unique.
No.
Definitely.
You're saying it's not. You're saying this. Hold on. You're saying the structure and the system of the transatlantic slave trade is not unique.
It's not unique in the same way that the chef said it beautifully, right? Like when you see
Chef
one
don't
dominant
agree
culture. Okay, well, I'm on this part of his argument. I did agree on, right? So when you see the dominant culture overtake another culture, you're going to see that dominant culture put systems into place that politically slant towards their ethnic group, and those people who were conquered will find themselves at the bottom of the ladder, socially and economically, every time. That is not unique. The way it happens might be unique in America, the way it happened, but the fact that the dominant group forces the minorities to become the labor class and all that, that's not unique. That part of it is not unique. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the same thing Chef is saying.
No. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Where did you disagree with that, Chef? Are you still on the
no, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Oh man. Okay. I don't want to argue. I don't.
I want to argue. This is good.
We might be talking past each other right now, but I don't.
Yeah, and we might be. We actually might be. I think
I agree with you too, Brass.
No, you can't agree with me because
listen. I agree with you in Mujasi because I'm acknowledging that each system has its uniqueness in it. You feel me? But overall slavery and oppression is going to take on similarities that's undeniable because it's slavery and oppression. So how each society implements its oppression might be different, but it's slavery and oppression no matter what. You feel me? What one society might find a necessity to do to their slave. And let me say this, Mujasi. So even when we think about Islamic slavery, right? Check this out. So if we deal with Islamic slavery, right? Or even biblical slavery, for most people have a Bible in hand, right? They tell you in certain passages the rights of a slave, meaning obviously it was some shit out of hand, and they tried to, you dig what I'm saying? They tried to give it some structure to the shit, or to make it more humanely about how to sell a slave, and how you could beat them and when you couldn't beat them and what was the slave rights. Meaning the same way that the United States after a while and Spain had to do, they had to start constructing laws around slavery, right? Because it could be the Wild Wild West. That means that you're acknowledging some type of humanity in them. Not that you give them the same humanity as you dig what I'm saying, as the dominant society, but you're recognizing, yo, come on now, like what we're
Yeah, some of
doing is
y'all,
just,
wow.
yeah, some of y'all are wild, unless, you know what I mean, they still humans at the end of the day. You just can't haul off and beat them to the point of mutilation. Like, nah, and so slaves actually, do y'all know it was slave masters that actually had to go to court for mutilating slaves here? You dig
Yep.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
Meaning that there was some type of humanity that was recognized in the slave. Had to be. You feel me? If a horse can't, a horse can't take a nigga to court. You feel me? A horse can't take a nigga to court. Like, how can that happen? You feel me?
Let me ask the question to that
It was
very point.
laws. Was there any laws against a cow? You dig what I'm saying? The fact that there was laws against the enslaved people meant that they were human. You can't, if there were laws that the slave had to go by in order for him to, come on, bro, y'all doing too much, yo.
What was the objective of the Islamic slave trade?
The objective,
Yes.
I wasn't talking about the Islamic slave trade in that instance. I was bringing up the slavery in Islam, like when Muhammad manumitted slaves, right? In the Hadith, we have Hadith where Muhammad manumitted or talked about how to manumit slaves, right? And you know, the freedom of slaves and certain rights that they had and all of that. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That means that there was already a system of slavery that he didn't quash out, or that Islam didn't stomp out. They just wrapped their arms around it. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
And gave it another framework or more framing it. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I know very little about the Islamic, the slave trade or the slave experience under Islam. So I would never speak and profess as if I'm an expert in anything like that. I know very little. What I have come across and what people have told me, and you may know more than me, so correct me if I'm wrong, that slavery within those various different systems and at different times under the domination and rule of Islam under the Sharia law was that the slave was a part of a system to build the different cultures, the different ethnic groups, and the different nation state of the Islamic movement, the Islamic society. So they were a part of incorporating within that system. They may have had a lower class system, and there had to be some rules and governance on how they interacted and coordinated and constructed that relationship with the lower class system. But they were a part of expansion, bringing more bodies into that nation state to build a much larger empire. Correct me if I'm wrong. The objective of the slave system in this thing that we call Western society wasn't about incorporation. It wasn't about building body. It was about complete subjective servitude for cash crop development. And so you're right. When you look at the Virginia House of Burgesses, when you look at the Maryland Assembly, there was laws at a certain point enacted for the protection of slave white. And then we're looking at different periods of how slavery evolved and eventually became a permanent caste. And we're looking at different regions of how slavery manifested itself versus the northern colonies and what we call the New England territory versus the southern colonies and the Carolinas and that area. They enacted different policies and practices around how they conducted the slave, but at the root of it, the slave was protected because of the economic necessity of that colony. And as soon as that colony didn't feel like there was a need for slavery, they discarded them like they were just animals. Or if they didn't try to incorporate them and do what they call civilize them and make them human by Christianizing them, teaching them the language, and pulling them in. And so we see these different dimensions and forms of how slavery took form and manifested. But I asked the question, what was the objective of that slave system? Because if the objective was to incorporate and build a nation state, then yes, you're going to see policies, laws, and rules and mores that govern the protection of some form of recognizing the humanity in that person. But if the objective is complete economic exploitation, it is a cow or a horse trying to declare themselves to be a human being in that system. So what is the
I mean,
objective? And we have to examine that.
are we moving into territory or trying to examine which one was more delicate on the African, European
No,
colonialism?
I'm just essentially asking the question because Chef made a good point. That he made an excellent point. That then when you look at some of these societies, there were laws enacted to orchestrate the relationship between the slave and the master.
And why were
But
they let off though, Majasi?
say that again. Why were they
Why
let
were
off?
they not? Why in most cases were they not found guilty? Even in
Oh,
the most
exactly.
murderous of cases, and then
Mm-hmm.
why were the punishes like? Well, why were the punishments light? And then what were they actually taking them to court for? It wasn't about the
Right.
slave.
It wasn't about the slave.
It wasn't about because at the end of the majority of those cases, they realized that you could do whatever you wanted to your own property. There was a case in I
Key
just looked it
word.
up. There was
Key
a case in
word. Property.
1829. Yeah, there was a case in 1829 where they were talking about how a man shot a slave in the face. A white man shot his slave in the face. It's the man judgment, and it brought up a term that I'd never even seen before. But it was State versus Man, 1829. John Mann had rented an enslaved woman named Lydia, shot and wounded her when she tried to escape a whipping. He was convicted of battery in a lower court. The North Carolina Supreme Court overturned the conviction because the ruling was a master or anyone standing in for him had absolute authority over an enslaved
Mm-hmm.
person and could not be criminally charged for acts of violence in a correction if he was correcting her actions. So I'm confused. Like, I get y'all point, right? I get you use the Bible, you use the this. I'm still trying to figure out what is the if what happened to us, the perfect storm of circumstances in our oppression, if y'all are just boiling it down to humans oppress humans, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying not in this way, are y'all agreeing with what I'm saying also?
I agree. I told you I agree in the
Logic
uniqueness.
doesn't though. Okay, so
Hold
you
on,
do.
hold on. Let me get this
Okay,
out.
go ahead.
I agree in the uniqueness of each circumstance of slave, no matter where is that in the world, right? We're going to be able to look at certain things within the system that we went through and say, yo, that is crazy, that is unique unto itself. You know what I mean? We're going to be able to look at China and say, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So think about this. What you just said at the end about a person, right? The slave was always in totality by the larger body politic recognized as a human being, as a person. Now, I can prove this. Check this out.
My brother.
Check this out. Now, the reason why the slave was always recognized as a human and a person, and we go to specific cases, and when you go to specific cases, what you're doing is you're looking at how a racist adjudicates something, right? A judge is a person who could be a racist, and he can adjudicate something in favor of a slave master, right? But the fact that in America, right, there were avenues for manumission of a slave that recognizes the humanity of that person, that slavery is just a condition that is granted by law. It is not the natural state of the person. Why? Because we had modes of manumission. The slave was granted a right to even buy his freedom. The slave master could bequeath freedom unto his slave. You dig what I'm saying? They were human. There's no doubt about that. John Quincy Adams even fought, you know what I mean, for that right to let it be known that you can't completely mitigate the humanity of the slave. He has certain inalienable rights as a human being. That's John Quincy Adams. I'm gonna pull it up somewhere where he actually argued this. You know what I mean? And it was upheld, meaning he was just reinforcing what was already known, meaning y'all going too far with this shit. You feel me? So yeah, the slave was always human. In any case that we pull up, I think we're just pulling up individual cases where individual races adjudicated in favor of the slave master or for the racist system. That's my point.
I don't think anybody thought we were animals, but there was a reason why it was called chattel slavery. There's a reason for that. There's they might have knew that we weren't dogs. They might have knew that we weren't cows, but then they created every system to deny that. So in the same token, they knew we were human. Okay, I don't have no argument with that. They could see that. But then they created a system to completely take it away. That's not even an argument, Chef. I'm not arguing that. And even with manumission was even unique within us, because I'm struggling to find a slavery. I'm gonna look it up. I'm trying to do this without looking a lot of this shit up, but I'm struggling to find a slavery where the child was permanently born, where it was
I acknowledge that it was unique.
No, I know you do. I'm talking to you and Logic, by the way. So it's not just I agree with some of your points. I'm still trying to figure out why Logic is saying that it's just oppression. You not even saying that. You actually giving the nuance and the context. Maybe Logic's at work and he can't, but there's a danger in when you use the words against the transatlantic slave trade and what happened to us here and what's still happening to us here. When you use the words, it's just humans oppressing humans, you take all the power away the African Americans have in this country. Because anytime somebody says you're just like us, why are you crying? What is the big deal? You saw what happened to the Muslims. Research it. You saw what happened to the Chinese. Research it. You remove our power when you say that. And I'm not saying that's what y'all doing, obviously, but I'm just saying that's the danger of saying that it's just oppression. It's just what humans do. So if you truly feel like that, just know that's what comes with it. Then what the hell are we trying to get reparations for? It happened to everybody else. Why are we trying to, what's the point? Now you run into the realm of what's the point? Why are we, what the fuck are we crying for? And I don't ever want to get to that point. I don't want to, I don't want to be the victim guy, right? I agree with that. I don't want to be the woe is me and then create this thing that we could never, this, that, and the other. But also, I love the fact that we were livestock to them. They knew we were human, but they made systems to turn us into livestock and pigs, gave us freedom, re-enslaved us, gave us civil rights, knowing that they didn't give us any economic rights, and somehow we became president of this country. Like that story, that is a success story beyond whatever. But if we just say, yeah, other than what I said, if we just say, well, they oppressed us like they did, like other people did the Chinese and other people did the Muslims, and then da 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 da. Nah, man. Maybe maybe this is my Afrocentrism probably coming out. But I'm enjoying my Afrocentrism at the moment. And I'm gonna stay with my Afrocentrism in this one. This one's gonna be a very difficult one for me to accept. I'm telling y'all now. Listen, if y'all ever want to see me turn into RBG or whatever the hell y'all call these different terms, I'm fighting right here. I'm fighting on this. I'm not letting this one go. I ain't doing it. I'm not. Even if it turns me into the blackety black guy in this server, I ain't doing it. Our oppression is unique. It's unique in its savagery, and it's still going.
Mm-hmm.
It's still here. I'm freed in a bird, and it's still going right now. That's the scariest part of the whole thing. So maybe I feel like y'all trying to minimize what happened to us. Maybe that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm thinking Chef and Logic. Maybe that's what y'all doing. Y'all minimizing it, and I don't like it. Y'all talking about Chinese and Muslims and all that. I don't care what happened to them. Same way they don't care. I don't think all of them care what happened to us. I think other races probably think we be crying too much. Or
I want to comment so bad, but because that's what I think is the problem. Like I feel myself trying to head y'all off, and I can tell in your conversation specifically, Brad, you trying to head us off, right? So what I mean by that is
all right, listen. I'll let you say that.
This is what I mean.
Just stop.
Okay, go ahead. You can pause it.
No. Just stop saying we all trying to head each other off. I was gonna say something the first time.
Pause.
Yeah, I was gonna say so. You said it about an hour ago, but you was cooking. I didn't want to fuck up your conversation. But now you done said, Brad, I think you trying to head me off. Now I gotta stop you. You gotta use different words. Don't put that evil on me.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to get in front of the conversation. Like I'm trying to beat you to the punch. Trying to beat you to the punch.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so right, you're having a problem reconciling. Like, how do we still hang to the sentiments of our experience while acknowledging how the experience fits in the human history, right? Because if we make it too broad and we're not special no more, well then we don't have nothing to complain about. I get what you're saying, and I'm saying I'm talking about maybe a different conversation because of course I'm trying to keep the sentiments, but at the same time I feel as though if we're trying to actually understand it, you would have to incorporate similar experiences, right? So you're coming from a standpoint of that there could be no similar experiences because they don't mount up to our sentiments, right? The whole time there are similar experiences that would one put us right back into the fold of experiencing what other groups are experiencing, and of course it would put us at the front of fighting for human rights in the future, right? Like it still actually does give us the respect, even though it kind of brings other people's plight into the fold as well. What am I doing wrong? Yeah, I can see where that's difficult, right? Because like that's where it feels like, where we would be relinquishing the most ground in the reparations argument, right? But we're not having a reparations argument right now. We're talking about how does it fit into to the fold of world history, right? Like how many outliers as far as behavior are there? Right? Can we deem our behavior as far as the resilience we showed, is that outside of the spectrum of humanity, right? Can we look at the brutality of the transatlantic slave trade and look at that behavior and deem it outside of the norm of humanity? That's what we're doing, right? So devoid of where it puts us in our reparation conversation, trying to establish, are we dealing with something outside of human behavior is the conversation for it, right? So the more you try to think about how does this happen, how do we take this back into the reparations conversation, but that's not the conversation we're having. That's where I see it to be.
No, I'm not really talking about reparations. I'm not really talking about reparations. I'm talking about if we in and of ourselves don't recognize the unique brutality of it, then I think what we're saying is job well done. I think that's what we're saying. I think we're telling the European that put us into slavery. I think we're saying just job well done.
Especially if we
I mean,
deflate our experience and throw it on a platform with everybody else and say, "Oh, this ain't." We're just like everybody else, and we've experienced the same thing. We might as well look at them and say, "Job well done."
because that was the goal. That was the goal. You know what I mean? I got to make a phone call in a second, but to me, that's the goal. That was their
Yeah,
goal. And then if we accept that and we start talking about Muslims and Chinese and this, that, and the other, then I think we just didn't. Okay, then you know what? Put everything down and see. That's what you don't want, Logic. You have this thing where you always talk about the losing hope. If all that's the whole fight for CRT and trying to keep it like that, because you know that's what they're trying to do. They thinking that because his generations have passed, they're trying to say that what happened to us, why y'all still crying about that? It wasn't me. It wasn't us.
right.
Look, y'all got civil rights.
So some
That's that.
kind of way
So why
we
fight for
we
critical race theory? Why should we?
we-
Why
we're
should
getting
we
we're
keep?
getting
Why
back
would
to
you take it out of the
reparations
book? No, I ain't
secretly.
talking about reparations. I'm talking about why would we care if they ever talked about it again? Why would we care if it was just the same? If our oppression was the same as everybody else's oppression, then why would we care if they don't teach it to our children? They could just stop talking about it.
No, and I don't think my conversation with y'all is to not minimize uh our unique oppression and slavery and our struggles here in the United States. I'm not attempting to do that. But when you actually look at history, right, you recognize that slavery, oppression, dehumanization is not unique to just Black people or to African Americans. It is a human striving, right? This is something that human beings universally have been working to fix across the board for thousands of years. Y'all understand what I'm saying? It's not, you know what I mean? Trying to treat every human being as humane as possible is something that we want universally. You feel me? Is what all humanity should be striving towards, right? And just because we have a unique oppression, right, that we're dealing with and that we're the victims of, doesn't mean that oppression and slavery is unique to the human experience. And by linking our oppression and our dehumanization to other forms around the world and through history, we're showing a commonality and a accord with all other human beings who have went through this. You dig what I'm saying? In some form, fashion, or way. And it shows that we are not inherently predisposed to that, right? It is not inherent in us to be oppressed. It is not inherent in us to be slaves. It is not something that is just unique to us. It is human beings exploiting other human beings, and that shit is universal. That's my point. So y'all want me to continue? Ain't nobody had no rebuttal.
No. I'm surprised I went this far along in the conversation, but I normally kind of just bow back and just say, I respect your position. Elements of disagreement. This is what makes TMI so powerful and such an engaging platform, because we have to have these diverse perspectives to really get at the nuance of these. So I'm bowing out at this point because I know I'm not in this to
Before
try to
you,
change anybody's
before you,
mind.
before you bow out, big brother, one thing I want you to be able to make clear, right? I
Hmm.
feel like that there's something on the back end of all of this on both sides, right? Because I feel like for me, and I don't know if Chef doing the same thing, but I'm definitely trying not to give into this. There's something specific about another ethnic group that we don't have, right? Like I'm trying to not fall into characterizing this specific behavior patterns as this group has it and the other group doesn't. That's more of what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to figure out, like, so what's maybe like underlying in your premise where you're like, it makes sense for it to have to be that because
I
you get what I'm
don't know.
saying?
No, I don't think I'm understanding your question.
There's no larger point to be made now that you can establish the uniqueness of African Americans' experience.
Wait.
Right, because for me, I feel like what I can establish by talking about how not unique it is, right, is I now incorporate all the other circumstances of humanity, and I got those as a backdrop of how humanity then tried to work their way into like this being the best era as far as civil rights for the globe. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did we get from pre-colonial Africa to now civil rights is a part of the theme of the whole world for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You follow what I'm saying? Like that would have to be a collective effort for the whole world to be appalled by certain human behaviors, right?
So you saying that part of our trajectory in achieving a level of civil and human rights within America was a part as a collective effort? Is that what I'm hearing you unfold?
Yes, yes,
And I think it would
yes.
have to be.
The
Hold on,
conditions.
Logic.
Go ahead.
Logic, check this out. And I think this is where I'll try to bridge with y'all more, because I don't think I'm disagreeing with Brass and Mujasi. I don't I don't understand why y'all see a disagreement, right? That's perplexing to me right there. When Malcolm X and them, right, started to link our struggle with other struggles around the world for human rights, right? It was an acknowledgement that look, this shit is going on all around the world. Now, each system, whether they were talking about the atrocities or what was going on in Cambodia, right? Or South Africa, or the struggles in the 60s in Vietnam and the French. You dig what I'm saying? The freedom movements in Africa, right? All through Asia. They were saying that look, there is oppression of human beings, right? And we need to link that oppression with the other oppression and movements around the world because human beings are being exploited and subjugated. So there was a universal cause. So if they could recognize, even though I'm here in the United States, right? And I can still recognize the struggle that Mandela and them is going through in South Africa, then I'm saying, or the struggle in Cambodia, right? If they pick up a newspaper, they can say, yo, there is upheavals and struggles of and oppressed people all around the world. You dig what I'm saying? Is a universal thing, but each system has its own unique way of dealing with it. I think I'm saying what y'all saying, but I'm acknowledging the universal humanity that's involved in it. You dig what I'm saying? And that the only reason why ours is unique is because of the unique circumstances of the United States. But I can definitely look at Jamaica and see a commonality with they say slavery in America was different from Jamaica, but we still acknowledge that shit was slavery. You feel me? So I'm trying to how we disagreeing. I'm perplexed here.
And that last point that you said, we're not disagreeing. This is the reason why I said that the African and the diaspora, whether we're talking about it in the Portuguese, the Spaniards, or the English, experience very common social conditions around slavery. It's only when you try to lift up what happened during the transatlantic slave war and put it in the context of all of human history and say this slavery is part of the whole slavery and all slave systems was exactly the same. And then if you don't examine the nature of how certain slave systems was created out of the political economic context that they were birthed and formed in, then you will minimize and say that all slavery look alike. They're all exactly the same. And I think that's the piece where we have some distinctive difference. And so to your point of Malcolm, you're absolutely correct. But this is where we want to make sure that we're doing a proper analysis of what we mean when Malcolm started to push and really use the language of a human rights piece. Because his examination was looking at the social conditions of the Black man and these various different points of positions around European imperial control at that particular time. He was looking at their servitude, their class system. He was looking at their working class positioning. He was looking at their relationship to power structures, influence, their place in society, how they were being used and pitted against each other. So his examination and the tools, the model that he used to look at what happened in South Africa, look at what happened in Vietnam, look at what happened in Cambodia, look at what happened in Trinidad, was he was able to see the human condition, the similarities between the human conditions and the Black person's plight in those particular positionings. And so that's where the human condition, but guess what? It's because he come from what me and Logic was talking about, that prophetic tradition, that prophetic Black tradition of our humanity here, that he was able to cast a perfect lens to be able to see that.
Can I add a
Without
piece,
that,
pause to what you said right there? Can I just add a
mhm.
piece and you
Yes,
keep
sir. Yes,
going?
sir.
Malcolm went to the UN because, and just so we're clear, that was the human rights piece was Malcolm didn't want the criminals giving us the civil rights. He wanted the people that could police the criminals. He realized
Right.
that it was human rights. So he went to the UN.
He thought the union.
Not
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't about slavery wasn't the same. He said it. It was some quote he made where it was like, I know you can't take your case to the criminal. I don't know the rest of it, but I
Hmm.
know it was something about you can't take your case to the criminal. So what he was trying to do was he was trying to put like because he wanted the UN to do it.
Yep.
He didn't want the American because he thought it was more like an international kind of thing
Hmm.
because he weren't African. He was trying to say this is what they're doing to Africans on these shores. So now this ain't even something that the United States government should even be trying to fix in regards to civil rights. Why hasn't the UN stepped in? If that's what you're supposed to be for, human rights, then why y'all not helping us? Y'all just sitting around waiting. So I don't think he did it in the way y'all chef you was trying to say. I don't think the human rights was because he was trying to say it was like everybody else's or something like that.
Well, there's two things are true, and then what you elevated, Brass, it is correct. But what Chef elevated was also correct too. That during his travels in Africa, and some of the statesmen that he was meeting with, he did write a few letters and make quite a few commentaries where he examined the conditions of what the black folks in Cuba and looking at how their material condition was very similar to the black folks here. And he drew some cross analysis to be able to talk about what that Afro unity will look like between those working people being able to see a common political alliance. So there's some elements of what Chef is saying. It's true. Malcolm analysis did look to the broader piece, but what you're elevating perfectly, Brass, is that Malcolm critiqued the civil rights movement and said that the grounding behind the civil rights movement is that you're going to the actual oppressors to try to get them to give you rights within the condition that they're not going to give you. You're going to the criminals to make your case. And he said, so this, he looked at the human rights struggle as something where we have to hold the United States, America, the government, accountable for its behavior towards the black man or the Negro that he used. And so, in that respect, he looked at the embassy, to the UN, as he attempted, and following the tradition of Paul Robeson and William Patterson, as as a global influence to how that governing body supposedly fights for the rights of human beings and human conditions across the globe. And so they felt like the United States, in his limited analysis, that the United States government can be held accountable by the UN. And part of that comes from him understanding that he recognized that the United States government had a global pressure around the Brown v. Board of Education, why the decision to be able to try to strike down integration was not just only coming out of the catalyst and the grit of black folks fighting for equality here, but that America was under a global pressure to reformulate its image in the global scheme after World War II and to not be associated in the same image as the right of what they were supposedly did against Germany. And so, the criticism that America was experiencing in the 50s and afterwards is that the Negro in the same position, it's a caste system, and what it was drawing parallels, critique social commentaries, politicians, political activists at the time was drawing very similar arguments between America and what was happening in Germany. And so the 1954 legislation informed Malcolm in part of his critique in terms of how he examined how the United States government have to be pushed with pressure from without in order to change the conditions of black folks within. And so I think that's some context behind what you're saying, Brass, is that yes, he was trying to use the UN, similar to how folks did before him, to hold America accountable. And it's difficult. But both of what your argument is actually correct.
We on the same page. Logic said we ain't special. Now listen, I done heard Chef and I done heard Logic argue. And after all of this, I'm still saying Logic saying is just I can't get out of my mind Logic saying oppression is oppression. I just can't get that out of my mind. Maybe I need to back up a little bit from the conversation. But that's what I got for Logic.
And I agree with Logic. It's crazy
Give me
because I
like
agree
give
with
me like
y'all,
5
but
minutes.
I
I'm gonna
agree
step
with Logic
outside and talk.
also.
Mm,
Go ahead, Chef. What
I
you say?
can't do it.
You
I'm
having a
trying,
problem.
Chef. I'm trying, but I can't
I'm
do it.
not having a problem with nothing nobody is saying. So what is wrong with me?
I
I'm
don't
really
know, man. I don't know, bro. I think you too. I think you too American, bro. I think you might be just a little bit too American for me today. I need some African out you. I need some African somewhere out you, my brother.
Man,
I
Chef.
need you to channel some Ogun or something. Because
Right.
you talking about I feeling like Corey the other day, we talk about I feel like you saying but what about black on black crime in Chicago? Something. That's how I feel. I don't give a damn what happened to the Chinese. I don't care what happened to the Muslims. I'm talking about what happened to my great grandmother. I'm talking about my people. So when I'm talking
and I
about
don't
my
have no
people, I
problem.
don't want
I
to
don't have
hear
no
about
problem with that.
it. No,
Listen,
no, I
we
hear
should
you.
be able to talk. We should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. There's going to be some of us that focus on the unique African American experience,
Right.
right? Some people are going to zoom out a little bit and talk about how all black people or was brought to the Western Hemisphere, their particular, like they can categorize it that way. You can zoom out a little bit more and say the colonization of Africa could be included into that. You dig what I'm saying? And I'm saying I can zoom all the way out from African American to diasporic Africans to Africans to humans. I can I can wherever y'all want to go with it, it's perfectly fine. I don't have no problem with it. You feel me?
Where's Corey at? I need Corey to cuss you out. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll hear Corey when he cuss you out. But I want him to hear you saying what you saying. So he can. I want to see what maybe because listen, I'll even admit if I'm tripping. Like I
You
just ain't
not.
seen how
Listen,
I ain't seen
you
how I'm
not
tripping
tripping.
yet.
Bro,
Okay.
listen, you are not tripping. I told you. I agree with you.
Okay.
Should we fight for everything we supposed to get here in the United States?
Yes.
Yes, we should.
Yeah.
Should they get off for doing anything to us? No, they shouldn't. Is our shit unique? Is us as an ethnic group in the United States unique amongst all other ethnic groups in the United States? Yes, it is. You see that? So I don't have no problem with nothing you niggas are saying. You feel me?
Right,
But
right.
when
It's
we
really it's
zoom
kind
out,
of y'all saying that we can't say both. That's really what it
Yeah,
is.
I guess you know what? I guess I ain't saying y'all can't say both. I think what I'm saying is, and this is probably the I'm being too Afrocentric. I don't when I'm talking about what happened to us, I don't want nobody to stand up in the room talking about what happened to the Chinese.
so how could you talk to another group of people and get them to see, right? How do you link with other oppressed groups and form coalitions if y'all not experiencing similar things?
I,
That would be insane. I'm the only people that's going through this shit. Ain't nobody else going through this. I'm unique. There has to be similarity amongst oppressed groups that they can all point to. You feel me?
I apologize.
Yeah.
My phone is ringing while you talking. I'm trying to mute. Um, I I don't think. I think we all bring our uniqueness to the table, and if there's some shared similarities, that's cool. But I don't think we're fighting for it every day, though, sir. Like you do know, there's a constant, the same the same erasure of culture that they did with the transatlantic slave trade. They're trying to do it now. So when we talking about linking with other groups, like we gotta say, like our situation in America, we gotta say we got to say it's different than everybody. Like we have to. I don't think we could come into this saying, hey y'all, we're all oppressed. Let's make the oppression group. Like, nah, nigga, like we're the transatlantic slave trade group. We're the
Right.
Reconstruction group. We're the civil rights
That's
group.
your uniqueness. That's your
Like,
Right.
uniqueness.
What would the working class, the poor people's movement be if it ain't that?
huh?
I said, what would that working class poor people's movement be if it wouldn't be that?
What are you
At
talking about?
some point, white people and black people have to recognize that the same person that's exploiting. Did Malcolm X say that? Wow.
I think that's MLK. I think so.
That the same group that's oppressing them is oppressing us. You dig what I'm saying? It's almost like
Yeah, that was MLK. That's the Poor People's March.
yeah. So think about that. Or how about, right? And like I said, how about if you look at the white slaves of Africa, right? And if you could look at that, and you can see how the United States actually, I think that was our first war that we fought. Am I correct?
Which one?
Where I think we fought, our Marines had went to North Africa and fought to free the slaves and the white slaves of North Africa, meaning that the North Africans were capturing white people all the way as far as off to Ireland and bringing them back to Africa as fucking slaves. I think that when we became, our Marines actually went to North Africa and fought in North
Are you talking
Africa
about
to actually.
Are you talking about the first blacks fought in the United States?
That our Marines fought in, offshore. I think it was in North Africa. But the point is, before we get off, that's my mind. You dig what I'm saying? Meaning that there were white slaves, millions in North Africa, right? That couldn't nobody free them. They was doing treaties, all of this shit. And we actually went over there. Actually, the Marine song or their battle song is about that. And they talk about the different wars that they fought in, from Mexico to North Africa, that the Marines have been fighting. You dig what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that there were slaves in North Africa, white slaves. And I have a book, I'm gonna put it in the books category, is actually called the white slaves of the Barbary Coast. You dig what I'm saying? Now, you know how we have the slave narratives of the United States. You can go and read the slave narratives with slaves.
You talking about Tripoli?
Tripoli, yeah. There you go.
I'm singing the damn song in my head. To the shores of Tripoli. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Right. So we have slave narratives here, right? That we could go back and read how slaves actually lived in the conditions that they was under. So the reason why I bring that up, they have slave narratives from white people in North Africa, and they describe their conditions, right? So now we can look at white people in North Africa under Arabs and Berbers, right? Explain their slavery and their conditions. And then you got black people in the South, in America in the 1800s, who describe their conditions. If we can look at it and see similarities, and they were all slaves, right? And they're explaining their conditions. how can't we lend solidarity with that and see that that is a universal condition, even though it's unique, because one was under Islam and one was under, I don't know what you call America. Like what the fuck was that? That was Christian? No, that wasn't democracy.
Yeah, that's under the That's under the flag.
Yeah, but that was only for less than 100 years. So before that, it would be what, under Parliament, under the king. What's that? Because from 1776 to 1865 is less than 100 years. So what was our governmental system here in the States
Democracy.
before? No, that wasn't democracy before.
What are you talking about?
monarch.
Before 1776?
Yeah.
British
crown.
rule.
It was under British
That's the
rule.
crown.
Yeah, that was
We
the
was the
crown.
monarch.
Under the monarchy or whatever,
Monarchy.
and Christianity, right?
Yeah.
So, and we only did less than 100 years under as slaves under democracy, under the United
Essentially.
States Constitution, right?
Essentially.
Okay, essentially. I'm not so
Yeah.
but if you the conditions that those white slaves they gave their narratives, we could see a similarity between those two slave systems, be told from the perspective of the slaves, irregardless of the political and cultural systems that they was under. There was a universal condition in slavery that enslaved people had in common. That, like, y'all get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the commonality
it's called
that
the
I'm talking
colonial.
about.
We're all right. It's called, the term is the colonial era. That's the term.
Okay.
But it's done under the European monarch or the crown. I call it the crown because that's what I was taught, the crown, the British crown. But it's called the colonial era if we're looking for a term of it. So.
Yeah, so I'm saying what y'all saying, like, trust me. You feel me? But
I don't think I think we're all on the same page. Logic is on the outside of the book. I'm leaving him. And because listen, I'm telling you, you think Logic is saying what you say. Logic is not saying.
I am saying what he's saying.
So then explain with the term when you said oppression is oppression. When I said transatlantic slave trade and listed the things that happened, I need you to explain why your response was oppression is oppression.
I'm
that
saying
ain't
your
what Chef
question.
was saying.
Hold on, this is where I'm gonna take enough to make sure I explain.
Okay.
Was to me, I think that me saying oppression is oppression sounds pretty clear. That you would see like those events fall under an umbrella of oppression. So I'm saying that oppression is not unique, right? Those events, like I said, the details and the events of how they used to use the black babies as alligator bait, right? That's a detail. That's a detail within the oppression. That detail is unique, right? The Jim Crow is a unique detail, but the oppression is something that you would see in other places. You would still see oppression. You would still see oppression politically.
That's where I'm confused at, and I'm trying to understand you. I ain't trying to attack you. I'm saying,
right. Well, I'm trying to separate.
Jim Crow a detail, I call Jim Crow a structure and a system. So
right,
it ain't
and
a detail.
I'm right. When I'm right, so you would say, even if you were to go and say the structure in the system, right? I would say that you can see elements of that structure and system doing something similar, right? Remember when we were saying about how the dominant group will basically force the servant group to eventually become their later class. I mean, their labor class eventually. That's what I mean by like it not being a unique thing. It may happen in some unique ways, but for the most part, it's the same thing happening. Like our grandma was forced to assimilate into a society that she didn't ask to be here, right? Like boiling it down that far is making it very simplistic, but essentially that's what happened. And in the process of that, you'll be forced to release some of your some of your old traditions, right? The society will benefit you to embrace the new cultures and so on and so forth. Like that part
Yeah.
of it is not. That's what I'm saying. You can see. You remember what I was saying earlier that the commonalities between these things are gonna. I think that's gonna be what is actually happening, and we can discuss all the particular details like Jim Crow and so on and so forth. But ultimately, that's what's happening. The process is the dominant culture or the minority group is being assimilated into the dominant culture. Ultimately, that's what's happening.
Right. But when you say
Melvin just put a whole bunch of good work in the books. What's the name on what I was just talking about? Appreciate that, Melvin. So look, I'm gonna tell y'all this: that the uniqueness, right? When y'all read these slave narratives, right, from the perspective of these white people, never been to America, when they talk about how I'm chilling in my village. And after the fog lifted, we seen 3 boats appear on our shores. Before we know it, our villages were being burnt. We was being dragged out our homes. You know what I mean? Put in chains, right? Never seen my homeland again. You know what I mean? These are white people. So when we think that white people just kicked our door in Africa and ripped us out our fucking houses and dragged us across the ocean. When you read these white people explaining an similar situation, like you feel that same visceral response of what you feel as though happened to us. The same shit almost verbatim happened to these people. You feel me? Over hundreds of years, this was happening to these people. And they were able to write their fucking narratives, yo, the conditions that they went through in Africa under enslaved, the horror of not understanding the language, being beaten, being starved, not knowing if they was going to ever see their homeland again. You dig what I'm saying? Man, listen. What I'm saying is what we think about slavery, right, as being unique upon like a good read of history, let you know that we might need to start looking at this thing a little bit more universally. That's my point.
Right, and so
y'all
to
making me
you,
so
Brass.
mad so early in the day, bro.
So do you see no benefit at all from looking at it from
No,
that none
no,
at all? Right.
no. I know because logic, humans are humans, and as soon as we start looking at everything and start switching it to human rights, we don't have a country we don't even have a fucking we have America, yes. So I'm gonna just be clear. African Americans most certainly have America. We built this democracy as much as anybody else, if not. Matter of fact, more than anybody else. But we don't have in my opinion, I don't think we have what's a good word for this? We don't have the word will come back to me, but I don't think we have whatever the word I'm trying to find to be playing around with
Luxury.
the luxury. Yes. I don't think we as African Americans have the luxury to not frame what happened to us as unique amongst all human oppression. Because it's our strength. It's the only tool. We don't have a country. We don't have a language. Our country is America, hypocritically, ironically. Our language is English, hypocritically, ironically. Damn near all of our culture was built in the same place we was enslaved. We can
Not
never
our
forget
strength.
that.
That's not our
Well,
strength.
no. It is.
Our
I didn't say
strength is
no.
that we
You're saying
overcame that
our
shit.
strength like one thing. No. You're saying our strength is like I'm saying
It's
it's one
that
thing.
we
It's part
overcame
of it.
that shit.
Right. But if we act like okay, listen. But other people, but see, you know what'll happen when we go the way y'all thinking is a
He
human
might be the
struggle.
baddest out of all the motherfuckers that
No,
was
we
oppressed,
are
though.
the baddest out of all the
Yeah, just so
motherfuckers. You
now
know
I'm with
why?
you.
No, right,
Yeah.
because right. But the danger in what y'all saying to me, and me, like I said, I'm leaving room for me to be wrong. But the danger in what I'm saying for me is that when we start talking about our oppression is oppression and how much other people's oppression was similar to ours with different pieces, even though it's all unique, when our strength is that we overcame ours, then we just fall into the same group as other people who overcame theirs.
Yeah, we
And I'm
melt back
telling
into
you,
the rest of humanity.
African Americans
Right.
is the baddest
We
motherfuckers on this
that's
planet.
how
We
we put
come back
ourselves
into the fold
back
of humanity,
into the
bro.
fold, right? Yes, that
Yes.
puts us back into the fold.
Man,
Yes.
fuck humanity. I'm talking about us.
See, if the main thing that was in question about us became our humanity, right? Then getting that shit back or reestablishing it is your fucking power. That's the thing.
That's the
Right.
whole
And you
exercise, bro.
minimize it when you start
I
talking.
think what
And if
Chevron is
logic
saying,
says oppression is oppression, then you just put us in the same boat with everybody else and we the baddest motherfuckers on this planet.
I think what Chevron is saying is okay and it's good and everything. I feel it. I feel him on that, right? But this is kind of alluding back to kind of what you said, Brad, about the luxury, right? So most of those other groups have got some type of repair to those wrongs that was done. Once we get the repair, once we get some type of repair from those wrongs that were done, then fine, I can join in and say, yeah, you know, we all went through something bad and this, that, and the other, but they ain't gay, we can't relate to everybody else because they haven't repaired the damage that's been done to us in the same way that they repaired those other damages. You see what I'm saying? So you talk about the 6 million Jews and the Cambodians and the Japanese and all these different type of people who got nuclear bombs on them and got snatched up from their village or whatever have you, right? There has been a repair and we continue to, like Black African Americans continue to repair these damages that were done to these different groups of people. The only thing is we haven't gotten that repair. So I'm more than willing to join in with Shefflin and its humanitarian endeavor, right? But first, we have to get our injury repaired first, and then I'll join in.
Well, remember we had some conversations a while back when we were talking about healthy propaganda, right? So here we are at the cusp of trying to look at it through the lens of like this worldliness that we've been emphasizing the last couple of weeks, and only to discard it once we come up to the face of what the truth actually looks like. Now we talk about, well, how do we frame the truth, to make it more beneficial? That's ultimately what we kind of came to.
Worldliness has to do with how you interpret information. You see what I'm saying? And basically like your matureness. That's what worldliness has to do with. Worldliness don't have to do with joining in or you know what I'm saying? This holding hands, this kumbaya. That's not what worldliness is. Worldliness has to do with intellect or intelligence, like information, in the way that it's interpreted and comprehended. You know what I'm saying? That's what worldliness has to do with. It don't have to do with joining in and holding hands with everybody. That's humanitarian. That's a humanitarian endeavor, right? And I am a humanitarian, right? That's kind of where I replace religion with humanitarianism. Most people would think I would replace religion with my atheism, but that's not how I do it. The religious part of me is replaced with my humanitarianism. You see what I'm saying? So what y'all talking about is a humanitarian endeavor, and it's fine. I'm cool with that, right? But I cannot be concerned if you gotta listen. I mean, if you got a knife stuck in your throat, right? You can't go worrying about the guy that's got a broken leg. You need to get the knife out your throat first, right? Then you're able to help the guy with the broken leg. But until you get the knife out your throat, the guy with the broken leg shouldn't make a motherfucker to you.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Thank you,
No,
Corey. Corey,
I do
I really
see.
appreciate the fact that you just joined this conversation and could
No,
put some
I
shit
do
in
see what
words
you're
that I
saying.
can't say. Thank you.
No, I see what you're saying, right? And then so I'm more so saying we got to figure out if it's a knee on our neck or if it's just some pistol whipping, because you would attack both of those things two different ways, right? At the core of this argument, we're basically saying do these conditions exist because of a particular ethnic group and their particular brand of domination, or is this just a product of modern society? Right? And that you're going to see it manifest itself in different ways. And our particular thing that we got to deal with is this. So like I'm more so like feeling like we can benefit from understanding what's happening a lot better rather than try to maybe I'm not really sure what the other thing would be there. I would say that you kind of run the risk of putting too much emphasis on who did what rather than what's actually happening, right? Because if you take it to the context of, oh, this specific people group is capable of something that other people groups aren't, and this is how we arrive in this particular scenario. I think that you're starting to get away from all the other circumstances, right? That come along with just having capitalism, right? That go along with having a caste system within, you know what I'm saying?
I think we quibbling about the wrong thing, right? So, like, we shouldn't be quibbling about whether human beings do this or if a certain ethnic group does this, because we've already actually white people doing it the worst, or is it other people doing it? Everybody doesn't.
You breaking up.
You got to go out and come back.
Oh God. Okay. Maybe I can just move over here.
Of course, it started to work as soon as you said that. It started working as soon as you said that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So what I'm saying is, I think we're quibbling about the wrong thing, because of course human beings have done slavery through time. We've seen that, right? We don't have to quibble whether, is it just white people, or is it just this type of person, or is it that human beings do that, right? And that's fine. I don't think we need to really, like I said, I don't think we need to quibble about that, right? The fact of the matter is, right, out of those groups that have been oppressed, the world is working. The world is working to improve or repair upon those wrongs that were done, right? Except for in our case. So that's where I think that's where the difference lies at, for sure. There, to me, you know what I mean?
I'm trying to figure out, well, what do you mean that the world is working to adjudicate other atrocities or oppression that was done to other people, and the world is ignoring ours? Is that what you're saying?
Well, look at Japan. Look at Japan and the reparations that were given to those people. Look at the Jewish community and the reparations that continue. Both Japan and the Jewish community continue to be repaired with monetary and through programs through the world. The world has a hand in repairing those.
So those
the
two
civilized
things,
world, right?
Right. So those two things.
Those are just two examples. Those are the two examples that I could come up with.
So let's deal and see if there's any similarity that us as being United States citizens can be somehow the same, or how could we merge Japan and Jews together? Now, if What you're talking
I
about,
don't think we
Japan.
merging them.
No, the see, because you're saying
Go
that the world is trying to help them or fix that shit, right?
They have, yeah, they
Or they
have and continue to, yeah.
and they're continuing, right? There's an ongoing,
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? So that's something that happened during World War II, right? The Jews were the genocide that happened to the Jews happened during World War II. The nuclear bombs that was dropped on Japan during World War II. So if it was a world war, that means that the world actually, or the Western world, for to be clear, participated or had, part in that conflict and rebuilding the world after that conflict. Do y'all agree with that?
Absolutely. You go in, you
Yeah,
fuck
I mean,
up
I
something,
can't
you
fight
need
that, but
to repair it.
I don't agree with the point you
Yeah.
probably about to make off of it. But I agree with what you just said.
You can just flat out agree with it. You go and you fuck up something. You need to do something. You need to do something to repair that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the world set
I agree with you.
So as the reports was coming out about what was happening to the Jews in Austria, right? And then what was happening to the Jews in Poland, right? The world sat back and for years and basically ain't go in with bombs, missiles, and try to fix that shit. You know what I mean? Tried to act like it wasn't there. They wasn't sure about, you know what I mean, whether all of the reports were true. This, that, and the third. We can look at the record, motherfucking world tried. A whole bunch of bullshit happened when the world should have been doing something or could have been doing something, right? Now, all right, if you want to fix that, you know what I mean? If you want to say, yo, we dropped the ball on that, and the Western world want to help those people or give to those people to try to make them whole again, that was something that they felt as though they dropped the ball on, right? As the Western world. When all of those reports was coming out about what was happening to these people, y'all didn't do nothing fast enough. So they could feel a certain type of way that we need to fix that. Even though we didn't do it, we sat idly by while it was happening. You dig what I'm saying? Now you go over to Japan, right? The world is engaged in a war with Japan. Japan attacks America. You dig what I'm saying? America drops 2 nuclear weapons on Japan. Fucks them up, right? Now, if America, right, and then NATO, the Western world, after they form alliances after World War II, right, want to repair what they did to Japan, then that's something completely within their privy to do. And nobody is saying that the world shouldn't be the Western world shouldn't be looking out for Jews after that shit and saying that they shouldn't be trying to repair Japan for what they did to Japan. Now, these are 2 outside entities. Do y'all agree? Outside the United States.
Yeah, but what's your point?
My point is that what happened to African Americans happened to them right here, right? And we are now American citizens. So so the repairs are not going to look the same. The reparative justice, right, and making the Jewish people whole won't look the same as them trying to repair what was done to African Americans and people that are now citizens of the United States. Do y'all agree?
I absolutely agree. Yep, fine. I absolutely 100% agree with that.
Right. So if the civil rights movement moved to make the African American community full citizens, right? Then those repairs are going to look like trying to repair citizens and not foreign nations. That's not going to be the the same thing, right? And the way that you go about it and making these communities, you're trying to bring these communities, as well as the African American community, into the larger fold of American citizenship. That would be the reparative thing to be done to them, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
you saying so? What you? I'm sorry, Sheffrin. I'm sorry, but I hear things in certain ways, right?
Go ahead.
And this
You hearing
probably
it?
because of I'm retarded. I'm half retarded or something. Something's wrong with me, Sheffrin, because I hear things in certain ways, right? So basically, what I'm hearing you say, and it's hurting my feelings. It's hurting my feelings.
It's
Sheffrin.
hurting my soul.
What
Go
I'm,
ahead.
but it is. What I'm hearing you say is, shut the fuck up. Be satisfied with the civil rights you got, and don't worry about what them Jewish and Japanese people getting. Because it ain't you ain't a nation. You just a bunch of niggas that was stolen from your country, and all you niggas need to do is worry about your citizenship, right? And shut the fuck up about what Japan and them doing, because they're a country, and it's not gonna look like that.
Yes.
So
You got
I hear
He admitted it. I knew that's why
you's a smart nigga, Gord. You's a smart nigga, Gord.
You said. That's why I did not want to say yes to everything else you said, because I knew that at the end of all of this, you was gonna say some vile.
What am I saying? Listen, no. Am I saying that we shouldn't be fighting? Hold on. Am I saying that we shouldn't be fighting to make ourselves whole in this nation? No, I'm not. But I'm saying that our shit is not gonna look like fucking Japan and the fucking Jews.
And
that's
the crazy part, though, Chef, I don't have a problem. Like what I said that you said, it hurts my feelings a little bit, but I don't have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with is then you're telling me I need to have some type of empathy for somebody else's plight, though. You see what I'm saying? In order for my plight to gain any traction, I need to have empathy and worry about everybody else while everybody else is telling us to shut the fuck up. Right. You niggas can drink out of the white folks' water fountain now, so you niggas need to shut the fuck up. So I'm saying, like, in that case, bro, like, I'm not cool with that part of it. You see what I'm saying?
But Corey, that's what I've been saying the whole time. Yeah, every time I bring up African Americans, they start talking about Muslims and Chinese. So I knew what they were doing the whole time. The entire time they've been talking. Every time I bring up ours is unique. What happened to us is special. Well, what about the youth? What about the Muslims? What about the Chinese? Like, I don't give a damn about what because they don't. I think about them the same way they think about us. When Native Indians, Native Americans got the casinos and the rights thing that they got. Whatever, I'm not very well versed on it, but I know part of their thing for the where did they put them reservations was that's how you get the Mohegan Sun and all these different casinos and different rights to that and the other. I don't think that they was thinking about us and the transatlantic slave trade when they got that shit.
No,
so,
I'm glad you put that up.
Concerned about them people though.
So every time y'all pull something up or a particular people, I'm going to address it. You know what I mean? This is good dialogue. Now, do y'all think that the Native Americans getting reservations or casinos, do y'all think that Native Americans say, yeah, y'all fixed me now. I'm all fixed back up. You know what I mean?
No.
You
I don't think so.
Me. No, that would be insane, right?
Right.
That would be insane to think that after you do that shit to a people, they're giving them the right to keep the money of their casinos is reparative for them. That is nuts. I guarantee you, Native Americans, their claim to America is going to be open to as long as America exists as an entity, right? And our claim, right, open claim to America is going to exist, right? I don't give a fuck what they do. That door will never be closed. I had a roof issue, right? a couple months ago, y'all, and I'm never closing that fucking case. Every time that I found a problem, now my roof is fixed, right? They didn't fix the inside. I didn't told them it was other shit that was broken. And anytime I find something else in this motherfucker that I can link back to that, guess what? Allstate getting hit up again. You feel me? They getting hit up again. When the motherfucker get injured on the job, a back injury or something, that case remains open. There's no amount of money that they can give you that's gonna make you say, "Oh, yep, I'm fine." No, in 20
Yeah,
years,
but
they
if
realize
Allstate would have came out, and put a tarp over your shit, Shepard, and then I start talking about how bad the guy shit down the street is, so you don't give a fuck until the Allstate come and do your shit right. Not just when they put the tarp over it and say, well, we took care of you, we got the tarp over it, you know what I mean? Now, so you good to go. And then I start telling you, well, Chef, you worried about just the tarp of dude down the street. Like, you're not trying to hear me, bro. You see what I'm saying? So they, down at the United States, then put a tarp over our roof here, right? Now we supposed to sit back and worry about what the North Africans went through? Like, it's just not impressive to me, Chef. I'm sorry. That's not, I don't know. Maybe you get somebody else with that.
No, we don't have, listen, we don't have to worry about it. But we're talking about oppression as a whole, right? Then we can look at that shit. How else can you make a case about oppression if you don't link it to other shit? Like, what would it be? How would you know what oppression really is if there's, y'all think that our shit is just so unique? Like, how would you know? How would you know you don't have good steak unless you ever seen good steak before?
Part of the argument ain't the uniqueness, right? Oppression is oppression to me, Shepard. I'm not, you know what I mean?
There you go.
I don't have of oppression, right? Right. So
you breaking up.
It's not that,
because he just said oppression is oppression.
It's not that I want. That was it. That
y'all
was
niggas, yo. Now I'm mad at Corey. I thought me and Corey was now I gotta kick Corey too. Corey, you in the same bag with them. I'm ready to have a conversation.
No, because what they're trying to do is, I don't know. What I'm saying is, I don't know what because I came in late. I don't know what they trying to get off here, right? But what I'm telling you, Brass and Shepard, is oppression is wrong no matter where it's done and who the victims are, right? That's just the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
But like, when I look across the world, right, and I've seen how it's cool to come to the table once you've got some type of significant repair. It don't have to be the end all be all repair. Like, I'm not saying Japan should be shut the fuck up and they should be satisfied with whatever they got. No, they should still keep doing like you doing. If the case is open, it's open. Goddamn, the carpet molded. So I need you niggas to tear out the carpet and redo the carpet, right? You know what I'm saying? The wall has got water damage. So you niggas need to come in and do some drywall and this, that, whatever it is, right? What I'm saying is, listen, we got to get ours took care of before we start worrying about everybody else. That's all I'm saying. It sounds like y'all was doing a lot of worrying about the North Africans, the Cambodians. Not a lot of significant repair compared to what the Americans got. You see what I'm saying? And continue to get where they got lobbying groups and all kinds of wild shit that African Americans couldn't even imagine doing right now. You know,
we got the Congressional Black Caucus. Are y'all serious?
Bro, really? Is you kidding me?
I'm dead ass.
We gotta cut this out. We gotta cut that out, Chef.
Yes.
That's like telling me America ain't racist no more because Barack Obama.
Never say America wasn't racist.
That's equivalent. I'm saying it's tantamount to say that's tantamount to saying